Now, for the first time since the beginning of the Israel-Hamas war, top ministers from India and the United States are holding a 2+2 dialogue in Delhi. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar and our Raksha Mantri Mr. Rajnath Singh have met their counterparts, U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken and the U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin. The External Affairs Minister has emphasized that in the 2+2 dialogue, India and the United States will undertake a comprehensive review and overview of cross-cutting strategic defense and security ties, technology and supply chain collaborations, and people-to-people exchanges as well. Praising the India-U.S. relations, Anthony Blinken said that it's been the strongest bilateral partnership that the U.S. ever had.
In the 2+2, we will undertake, as we have done before, a comprehensive overview of cross-cutting strategic defense and security ties, technology and supply chain collaborations, and people-to-people exchanges. Our meeting takes place as we make rapid strides in all aspects of our bilateral agenda. Our trade
enduring commitment of the bilateral partnership, but equally importantly, our desire to work together to expand this partnership further and to deepen it more. You are all aware of the intensity of the diplomatic engagement between India and the United States in recent years, including this year in particular. We have had two very highly successful heads of the state, heads of the government visit. Honorable Prime Minister had a historical visit to the U.S. in June this year, and most recently we had the honor of welcoming President Biden on a successful visit to India on the occasion of the G20 summit. The collective outcomes of Honorable Prime Minister's visit to the U.S. and President Biden's visit to India have really given us a strong leadership-driven momentum to bolster, to strengthen, to expand this relationship much further. In today's 2+2 discussions, the principals on both sides, Honorable Raksha Mantri ji, External Affairs Minister on the Indian side, Secretary of State and Secretary of Defense on the U.S. side, undertook a comprehensive review of our bilateral relations. We discussed of multiple partnerships. After I finish, my colleague, Defense Secretary, will speak to the defense partnership part, defense and security cooperation part of this relationship. But besides that, the trade and investment partnership, the technology partnership, partnerships relating to the emerging area of critical and emerging technologies, value chain and supply chain securitization of different products and services, partnership in the field of space, our continuing engagement in the field of mineral securities through the Mineral Security Partnership Framework, our common efforts in combating terrorism. These all and much more formed part of the overview of bilateral relationship that was undertaken by the principals earlier in the 2+2 dialogue. In addition, the principals also focused on and deliberated on the ongoing regional developments. They, of course, discussed the common challenges, the shared challenges that both India and the U.S. face, but also how to work more strongly to harness the opportunities that exist in many of the regions of the world. If I was to highlight a few of 4 or 5 specific themes under the regional discussion, one was our growing cooperation on the connectivity side, particularly including through the India, Middle East, Europe Economic Corridor. As you are all aware, that was launched on the sidelines of the G20 summit in September this year. Continuing and growing cooperation under the Quad framework. Our partnership, of course, in the Indo-Pacific. A perspective on India's leadership of the global South, and what value proposition that brings to the India-US relationship, etc. These were some of the areas which we focused on in the principles focused on in the discussions in the 2+2 held today. Sure, I thought I was loud enough and didn't want somebody to say lower down the volume. Today's dialogue has actually helped both India and the US to energize the multifaceted India-US cooperation and reaffirmed our partnership, the objectives and the goals inherent in it. We are grateful to the principals for guiding our efforts to elevate the India-US relations. Later in the evening, there would be call on the Honorable Prime Minister by the four principals on both sides. With these words, I would stop and would request my colleague, Defense Secretary, to speak on important segments of 2+2 earlier today. Okay.
Thank you. Vinay, Terry, Vani and Arindam, and friends from media. The visit to India of Secretary of State and the Secretary of Defense from US is when the defense ties between the two countries are the strongest. We had a very successful visit of our Honorable Prime Minister in June this year, in which many new initiatives were struck. These initiatives have to be taken to their logical conclusion. This 2+2 is in a way continuation of the important steps taken during that visit. We, in the 2+2 meeting, shared our common and convergent interests and shared our mutual goals. Especially in the regional and global scenario, when the situation is very volatile, the visit of the dignitaries from US is of great significance. It affords an opportunity to review the security and see how the upholding of international law and humanitarian assistance can be looked at very closely and in a mutually comfortable fashion. We have seen a convergence of strategic and economic interests for a period of time. In fact, many times our strategic interests are subserved by our economic cooperation and codependence. Especially in the field of technology, our cooperation has gone to a new level. Yesterday there was a investor meet, both from US and India. The innovative ecosystem had a very deep dialogue. The investors and the innovators had a heart-to-heart talk under the direction of the DIU from US and DIO of Ministry of Defense India. This partnership will give the necessary dynamism for Indian industry, enabling them to become parts of the global supply chain. Today, the two principals, in fact 4 of them, had a very frank and in-depth discussion covering the bilateral relationship in a comprehensive fashion, as Vinay has explained. In essence, the defense cooperation has become a rock-solid support to the bilateral relations between the two countries, the potential collaboration in emerging domains for the civilian commercial use as well as for the strategic use also was a topic of common interest. How the defense industries can intersect each other's interests and promote each other in this particular context of strong bilateral ties was also a matter of great focus. Our extensive engagement has yielded important results. This meeting will contribute to giving a momentum to the defense industry roadmap, which was recently finalized. We have a common vision of free, open, and inclusive Indo-Pacific and a rules-based global order throughout the seas in this world. Our partnership is of critical importance to peace and stability in our immediate neighborhood, but also in other regions connected to us. I thank Vinay and his team for organizing this 2+2 in a very efficient fashion. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I will now open the floor for questions. Ground rules, please. Please identify yourself and the organization that you represent. Also, we will